My wife, who is 37, started a new job about 4.5 months ago and quickly made a few new friends. As for me, I'm 36, and I wasn't too fond of her new circle. They were strong feminists, often acting as if they were victims of past wrongs, and extremely socially aware. They seemed to find offense in everything, even something as simple as holding the door open for them. No matter what, it always felt like a lose-lose situation. At first, I tried not to take it seriously, but over the past 2 months, I started noticing troubling shifts in my wife's behavior. We've been married for 11 years and have 2 kids, our 10-year-old daughter and 8-year-old son. The situation worsened steadily. She began accusing me of all sorts of things, like being inherently evil because of the historical oppression of women by men. It was outrageous. I tried to stay patient, but these discussions usually ended with me saying something like, "I haven't done anything to hurt you. The only thing I've done is love you." It often left her silent, but by the next day, she'd restart the same arguments with a new angle. Around 5 weeks ago, I had a gut feeling that something was seriously off. She started coming home later without letting me know where she was, and when I tried to call, she wouldn't pick up. Even when she was sober, she seemed distant and cold. The next day, she'd brush off my concerns, accusing me of being controlling and overthinking things. This became a regular pattern. I tried checking her phone, but found nothing concrete, though I suspected she was deleting a lot of messages. I did, however, find a conversation with one of her new friends talking about the idea of an open relationship, which only confirmed my suspicions of her cheating. She told me she wanted to discuss things on the second Monday of December, when the kids would be with their grandparents for Christmas. We were supposed to join them later. Over breakfast that morning, she casually brought it up, asking what I thought about the idea of an open relationship. Thankfully, I had been preparing for this moment. I had been reading posts on Reddit, and I knew by now that there was no saving this marriage. The best I could do was protect myself and our children. From here on out, it was all about self-preservation. I didn't raise my voice. I simply asked her direct questions. She had been confident until she saw the seriousness in my expression. Me, who is he? Her. What do you mean? Me. Don't act like you don't know. If you want to be honest, let's do that. But if you can't be honest, then what's the point of this conversation? Her. What do you mean? Me. If you lie, there's no way we can talk about our relationship. I know you're hiding something. Who's the guy you're seeing? Her. I'm not. Me, don't lie. You've broken my trust. If you can't be honest with me, then we're done. No arguments, just divorce. Do you get it? Her. I understand. She admitted to having 2 one-night stands with married men, and then confessed she planned to sleep with a coworker. She claimed it was what was best for her and insisted I had no right to control her actions. I asked for the coworker's name and she gave it to me along with his wife's name. She said their relationship was open. She even suggested setting me up with one of her friends, one of whom was apparently eager. I turned it down. I asked for her phone, and she showed me how to unlock it. When she went to the bathroom, I locked myself in my office, which seemed to panic her. I used recovery software to retrieve deleted messages and installed a spy app on the phone. When I came out, I handed her the phone and told her to leave. She tried to argue, but I kept my responses brief and to the point. She showed no remorse. She yelled at me, accusing me of being controlling, perpetuating the historical oppression of women, and not really loving her. Her friends reassured her that I wouldn't follow through on my threats. One of them even shared a story about how she had manipulated her ex-husband using similar accusations. I've now ordered cameras for the house. I know I need to have everything recorded. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I had never threatened her in any way. After that, she started texting her affair partner to arrange a meetup at a hotel, which left me in shock. I went online to find the affair partner's wife, and it didn't take long. I contacted her through Facebook and shared all the details, including where they were meeting. She thanked me and hung up. A few hours later, I got a video from her. She had gone to the motel and confronted them, telling them this wasn't the first time her husband had cheated. She was furious. The video showed my wife getting dressed on the bed, which made me sick. The affair partner's wife even slapped and cursed at my wife. I sent a message to my wife, telling her I had seen the video and that I never wanted to see her again. It seems like she's treating our situation like a competition, believing she's somehow winning. I don't get it. It's like she's completely disconnected from reality and doesn't realize that we're getting a divorce. I joined the family WhatsApp group to inform them about the divorce due to her infidelity. I thanked them for accepting me into the family and then left the group. I've received calls and messages from her, but I haven't read or responded to any of them. I just don't have the energy for it. I talked to my parents and filled them in on everything. My dad even messaged my wife, telling her she wasn't welcome for Christmas. I'm staying at my parents' place now, and I spoke to my boss, who gave me time off until mid-January to deal with everything. I've been watching her conversations with her new friends, which are getting more frantic by the day. It's like she hasn't fully realized she's lost her family, and that her friends and the affair partner don't really care about her. She sent me multiple messages and even showed up at my parents' house, demanding to celebrate Christmas with us. My dad had to threaten to call the police if she didn't leave. Right now, I'm in the process of finding divorce lawyers, and I can't stop crying. The pain hit me hard when I got to my parents' house. Everything feels so confusing. Reading her messages and trying to communicate with her only brings me more pain. I've only replied to her twice. It doesn't matter what you say. I don't even know who you are anymore. You're not my wife. My wife would never break my heart like this and still smile. We're getting a divorce, and I don't care about your words or demands. You have no right to ask anything of me. We're done. Whoever you are, you seem proud of what you've done. Her messages stopped after that last one. The pain sometimes feels unbearable. I wish none of this had happened. I wish I could go back to how things were before, but I know I can't. This is the worst Christmas I've ever had. I couldn't help but explain to the kids that Mommy doesn't want to be part of the family anymore and that she's choosing to be with other men. We're getting a divorce and naturally they're upset. Thankfully, my mom and dad are here to comfort them while I'm falling apart. I'll try to get back on my feet for the sake of the kids, but I know I'll never go back to her. I regret not waiting until after Christmas to get the kids into counseling. I blurted it out when they asked when their mom would be back. I could never forgive myself if I went back to her. The level of disrespect and heartlessness she's shown is unforgivable. I'm lost and can't understand why she expects anything from me now. Is she mentally ill or something? I'm sorry for rambling. I just needed to get this off my chest. What really hurt was when my soon-to-be ex-wife used harsh words to describe how our marriage, and especially our kids, were a burden in her life. She said they were holding her back from becoming the successful woman she always wanted to be. She blamed me, her husband, for oppressing her and keeping her from having a good life. She even went as far as to say her family was the reason she never had a successful career or enjoyed casual experiences. I couldn't handle it. For the next 30 hours, I kept reading and rereading all the emails and chats we had exchanged. Upon reflection, I realized she never gave me any specific examples of how we were supposedly burdens or oppressors. It was all vague statements, with no real evidence or specific incidents. The truth is, I never stopped her from pursuing anything. I financially supported nearly everything, since her part-time job at minimum wage didn't cover much. I backed her hobbies, dreams, and even the classes she took and then dropped. I made sure to show her love every single day and appreciated everything she did for the family. I took her out and was there whenever she needed me. If this is oppression, then I'd like to experience it myself, please. But I digress. At some point while reading, I just passed out. When I woke up, my 3 best friends were in the kitchen with my dad, helping prepare dinner. I've known these guys since childhood. Let's call them David, Stephen, and Ethan. My dad had filled them in on what had been happening, and when I saw them, I broke down again. I was in a daze until Friday evening. David is a military veteran who lost his left arm below the elbow. We were there for him when his wife left him. Fortunately, they didn't have kids, and David later adopted 2 children and found a wonderful girlfriend. He set up a Zoom call with his counselor, the same one who had helped him through his recovery. Although the counselor specialized in helping amputees, His insights into my emotional state were incredibly helpful. He explained that a huge part of my identity and sense of self was wrapped up in my role as a husband, and now that part of me was gone. It was like how amputees feel phantom pain in a missing limb. I'd be feeling phantom pain from this lost part of who I was. We had several deep conversations, and I've slowly started to improve since then. Stephen is an executive at a security company, though he's pretty secretive about his job. I'm not exactly sure what he does, but I know he's wealthy. He reached out to a law firm connected to his company, and on Sunday morning, I was able to talk to a lawyer I'd never be able to afford on my own. Stephen, who was bullied a lot as a kid, assured me not to worry about the legal fees. He'd cover them. He was glad to finally pay me back for standing by him when he was bullied. Ethan, on the other hand, is a teacher at a private school with 7 children. Yes, you read that right, 7 kids. My children absolutely adore him and his family. Ethan has been making sure my kids are well cared for while I work on getting my life back together. Yesterday was particularly eventful. It started with an early morning STD screening, which confirmed that I had contracted chlamydia from my soon-to-be ex-wife. I'll need another screening in 6 months. The self-pity I felt turned into pure rage when I found out. Now, I'm set on pursuing full custody and making sure she gets nothing if I can help it. My lawyer was able to track down the ex-husband of my wife's feminist friend, the one who bragged about deceiving her ex. Turned out to be easier than I expected, thanks to court records. I chatted with him on WhatsApp, and he was grateful to me for getting in touch. He shared the horrific experiences he'd gone through because of this woman. Now, I have a much clearer understanding of what to expect from my soon-to-be ex-wife. It was hard to hear about everything he had been through. I was devastated to learn that he'd been homeless and hadn't seen his kids in 4 years because of the lies his ex-wife spread. I know I'm at a disadvantage as a man in the court system, so I'm making sure to gather all the evidence I can. My lawyer also suggested filing a restraining order as a proactive step, considering my wife's aggressive and negative views toward men in general. For the sake of our son, growing up in a home where one parent is openly hostile toward men is undeniably harmful. That's why I'm pursuing full custody. I've told my lawyer to proceed, and she's set to serve the restraining order today. I had a Zoom call with my soon-to-be ex-wife. It's important to note that she hasn't reached out to me or anyone else since the argument at my dad's house. Clearly, she doesn't care about any of us. The call was bizarre. She had dressed up in a revealing outfit, clearly trying to look her best, something I hadn't seen her do in years. Throughout the call, she tried to provoke me into an argument, but I managed to keep my composure. My lawyer had advised me on how to handle the conversation, suggesting I stay focused on an amicable divorce for now, rather than turning it into a battle. I was recording the call, and I even referred to her as my soon-to-be ex-wife. She started off with a strange comment about male anatomy, talking about how it changes when erect or flaccid. I couldn't believe she began the conversation with that. Then she mentioned her excitement about the end of current restrictions, hinting at wanting to explore these topics in person. I told her I wasn't interested in discussing her hobbies, and that I just wanted to focus on our divorce. Her hostility became clear when I didn't react how she expected. At one point, she muted herself, claiming she was going to the bathroom, but I could hear her talking to her friends. She cursed me, purely because I'm a man. Several times during the call, I got the feeling that she was treating this whole situation like a game, where she was in control and I had no choice but to follow along with whatever she decided. We didn't make any progress on the divorce, so I realized we were heading toward a contested divorce. I said, "By the way, I contracted chlamydia from you, and unlike you, I haven't been with anyone else. You should get yourself checked." She frowned at me, not believing what I was saying. At this point, I'm not sure what's going on with her, and Ethanly, I don't care anymore. I shared the recording with my lawyer, who was quite surprised by the whole thing. Everyone thinks my wife's behavior is irrational, and honestly, maybe it is. Since the phone is in my name and I'm paying for the subscription, I can legally use the chat logs in court. After our call, there was a frantic discussion among her friends, but I'm beyond caring about what they talk about now. My lawyer is confident that we'll win this case unless there's something I haven't shared yet. So here we are. Still hurts, but I'm starting to see it as phantom pain. I've stopped feeling sorry for myself and I'm now taking a more proactive approach. No holds barred. I need to protect myself and my kids. I'm confident they'll be fine, and I'll make sure they get therapy if they need it. My soon-to-be ex-wife will soon fade into a distant memory, and I'll start working on building a new, better life. Today, I found out that she knew about the chlamydia infection, had received treatment for it, but never bothered to inform me. It's frustrating. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for their feedback. Some people see me as strong or think I'm somehow winning in this situation, but I know that my anger is obvious. It might come across as defiance or confidence, but that's not the reality. The truth is, I'm not fine. I wish none of this had happened. I wish my family was still together and that I could look forward to a simple, comfortable future with my wife. There are no winners here. As my kids grow older and begin their own lives, my wife's actions have left me with no choice but to move on. There's no turning back now. I desperately wish this didn't have to happen. I'll never be able to trust her again, and every night, I cry myself to sleep. Not just for my own loss, but for the fact that my children will grow up in a broken home. It's heartbreaking that my kids no longer have a functional relationship with their mother. How do you answer a child who asks, "Why doesn't mommy want to see me anymore? Doesn't she love me?" If anyone has an answer to that, I'd love to hear it because I certainly don't. Every day, I wake up telling myself that my heart is already shattered into pieces, and it can't possibly break anymore, only to be proven wrong again and again. My wife still doesn't realize that I can monitor her communications, or maybe she just doesn't care. She's completely convinced that I'll never leave her and that my reaction to her behavior is completely unwarranted. She continues to speak negatively about me, our marriage, and our children to her friends. I don't understand why she despises us so much. We haven't done anything to her friends that would justify this. As I mentioned earlier, my lawyer was able to secure a temporary restraining order against her. There was a hearing yesterday morning, but since there were no new direct threats, it wasn't extended. My lawyer suggested using the fact that she knowingly infected me with chlamydia as leverage in negotiations for an uncontested divorce. I wish we could part ways in a more reasonable manner. I hate that I now have to view her as an adversary and prepare for the worst. If she wanted to leave me, I would have accepted that. Why is she pushing me into this incredibly contentious process? Why does she seem intent on causing as much harm as possible to the people who once cared about her? What could she possibly gain from this? Any insights would be greatly appreciated because it just doesn't make sense to me. If this goes to court, I might end up paying her a lump sum for the equity in our house, but I probably won't be held responsible for alimony since she shows no interest in our kids. I'm hopeful I can win full custody if it goes that far. My lawyer has suggested we try for an amicable divorce, and I'm open to that. We plan to meet with my wife and her representative hopefully sometime this week. The ex-husband of the dishonest woman who deceived him spent New Year's Eve with me and the kids. The injustice against fathers in the legal system is unbelievable. I no longer have any illusions about receiving a fair outcome if we end up in court. His ex-wife lied extensively, and the court accepted her word as truth, despite the lack of evidence. He hasn't seen his children in years and has been forced to pay ridiculous amounts of alimony and child support. The toll it's taken on him has been so severe that he even considered ending his life. With the new evidence I provided, he's found renewed hope. We both discussed it with my lawyer, and she advised him to hold onto the evidence until our meeting with my wife and her lawyer. If he takes action too soon, it will reveal that we have access to their communications. My lawyer's main goal is to help us finalize our divorce as smoothly and quickly as possible. Right now, my priority is distancing myself from my soon-to-be ex-wife. If she decides to fight, this could drag on for months, and I can't handle that stress. I just need to be free. Unfortunately, the bizarre situation continues. The meeting with my lawyer and my soon-to-be ex-wife took place yesterday afternoon, but she showed up 30 minutes late. To my surprise, she didn't bring a lawyer and insisted she didn't need one. Instead, she brought one of her new acquaintances. My lawyer had given me specific instructions on how to conduct myself, I should avoid reacting negatively at all costs and stay as non-confrontational as possible. When my lawyer placed her hands flat on the table, I was to remain silent. But they arrived late, didn't wear masks, and the harpy she brought with her tried to insult and provoke me in various ways. My soon-to-be ex-wife joined in, and my lawyer tried to steer the conversation toward discussing the divorce. But instead, they continued making jokes and laughing, often at my expense. It was incredibly cringeworthy to watch. At this point, it's clear that my wife still thinks this is some kind of game, believing I could never actually go through with a divorce. In her mind, only she can initiate this, and she expects to get everything she wants. I couldn't help but wonder what on earth was happening. I kept my responses minimal, sticking to vague phrases like, "Yes, you're probably right," or, "I really don't know," hoping to avoid further escalation. Eventually, they seemed to lose their momentum. My lawyer then presented the proposed settlement for an amicable divorce, emphasizing my willingness to be generous for the sake of a swift and peaceful resolution. She included a substantial lump sum for the house's equity and investments. My soon-to-be ex-wife couldn't hide her eagerness, and her friend encouraged her every step of the way. They were eager to sign immediately. My lawyer, however, repeatedly suggested we go over the full terms of the agreement, but my soon-to-be ex-wife was insistent about signing right then and there. She even started discussing when she'd receive the money and what their plans were for the pub. After making a quick call, my lawyer arranged for a notary to arrive, asking for our identification. We signed 2 copies and the notary stamped them. My lawyer, practically giddy with excitement, thanked my soon-to-be ex-wife and her friend, telling them that we were finished. They left, and my wife even forgot her copy of the agreement on the table. My lawyer signaled for me to stay quiet while they were still in the building. Once we saw them leave the parking lot, my lawyer congratulated me. She explained that this had been one of the most unusual divorce negotiations she'd ever encountered. She clarified that my soon-to-be ex-wife's copy of the agreement would be sent to her after our hearing with the judge, or if she hired an attorney who requested it. Until then, it would remain in my lawyer's drawer, effectively forgotten. On the surface, it seems like my divorce might be easier than I originally expected. However, my soon-to-be ex-wife still has the option to hire legal representation and challenge it. My lawyer reassured me that she would do everything in her power to expedite a hearing with a judge, which would likely be a video call. I also hired a private investigator after receiving advice on Reddit. The investigator gathered photos of my wife kissing 2 different men at 2 different bars, as well as images of her entering a hotel with one of them. I've collected solid evidence, and I hope it'll hold up if needed. My wife signed to grant me full custody with a one-time payment and no spousal support. Now I just need to sort out the financial details. I have a plan in place, and Stephen has offered to cover the full amount if needed. My lawyer has advised me to keep a low profile, continue handling everything as usual, and avoid stirring any trouble. She recommended not communicating with anyone we both know and being patient until the hearing. Yesterday we had the hearing and essentially I'm divorced. The official paperwork will take 4 to 6 months to process, but it's unlikely that the outcome will change at this stage. The only way it could be reversed is if both my wife and I decide to halt the process. I'm completely exhausted and haven't slept in days. Please forgive me if I seem a bit scattered. I just need to get this off my chest. Maybe now I can finally get some rest after sharing all of this. My amazing lawyer managed to secure an early hearing just 12 days after we filed the paperwork, likely through some behind-the-scenes maneuvering. But let me stay focused on what happened recently. From the weekend to today, it's been absolute chaos. On Friday morning, a group of police officers arrived at my house with a search warrant. I was confused and concerned about the kids, so I asked if I could take them outside while they conducted their search. They agreed. They didn't give me many details, but I managed to get a copy of the warrant. I was shaken by the whole thing and couldn't make sense of it at the time. It turns out, the suspicions about my ex-wife's behavior being linked to medication are partially correct. The police ended up ransacking my house. I contacted my lawyer and she spoke with them, but since the warrant was valid, there wasn't much we could do. It didn't occur to me at the time, but now I have surveillance cameras installed everywhere to protect myself against potential false accusations. I have video and audio recordings of everything. If I choose to, I might be able to file a claim later, though I'm not sure I have the energy or desire to pursue that. Maybe I'll just leave it behind and move on. At the time, I didn't know, but my ex-wife and her 3 friends had driven my car while intoxicated and crashed into a house at high speed. They were all arrested, found to be intoxicated, and had various medications in their possession. They sustained injuries in the crash, with one of the passengers in critical condition, and there are doubts about her survival. The lead friend, whom I'll call Catherine, was the one who boasted about deceiving her ex-husband, Ryan. Ryan and I have become close friends, and I'll get back to him later. Fortunately, the police didn't find anything during their search of my house. I provided a statement confirming that my ex no longer lives here and is staying with her parents. I'm not sure what my ex is doing now. No, I didn't give Catherine permission to drive my car. When I returned to the house, I was overwhelmed with emotion. It was in complete disarray. It was the final straw. All I could think about was calling my dad. He came right away and took me and the kids to stay with my mom. My dad gathered 26 friends and family members, who came together to clean and repair my entire house while I sat on the back porch, emotionally drained, eating my mom's comforting food. They fixed everything, every room, the clothes, the dishes, the furniture, and even took care of small things like loose door handles. The house is now cleaner than it's ever been. They went above and beyond for me, and I'm not sure how I can ever repay their kindness. Over the weekend, with their help, I went from feeling utterly hopeless to starting to feel a lot better. Meanwhile, the police found more medication at Catherine's house, where her boyfriend wasn't there, and the kids were left unattended. Child Protective Services, CPS, got involved, and Ryan was granted temporary emergency custody. On Saturday, Ryan presented chat logs to the judge, along with evidence of abandonment and an excessive amount of medications. It was enough to win custody without much resistance. Ryan was ecstatic. He had barely seen his children in the last 5 years. He had been raising funds to battle Catherine in court when this whole situation unfolded. To make the custody permanent, Ryan still has to go through the court process. But for now, the kids are in safe hands. Many believe Catherine will face serious jail time if her critically injured friend doesn't survive. Afterward, Ryan plans to pursue child support and compensation for what Catherine has put him through. While he's not overly hopeful about the latter, his main focus is ensuring that his kids have a good life, which has been clearly neglected by Catherine. Stephen has been incredibly supportive, even finding Ryan a rental apartment through a friend. I've come to realize that I know very little about Stephen's personal and professional life, and I intend to change that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me get back to Catherine. She was driving when they veered off the road and crashed into a house. All of them were injured, and alcohol and medication search warrants were issued for everyone in the vehicle. As for my ex, she's still listed as living at my house, but I've decided that I'm selling it and moving away as soon as possible. I fear something similar could happen again. Last Sunday, my ex's parents called me. They informed me that their house had been searched as well. They visited their daughter in jail on Saturday and no longer trust anything she tells them. To make a long story short, they came over to talk on Sunday, and it turns out she's been lying to them about everything. She's been going out partying and cheating on me, even though she had told them she was staying with me to work things out. Her parents had no idea what was really happening. They thought her cheating was just a one-time mistake. Exactly what she had told them. On Monday, my wife called to ask for bail money. $155,000. Her parents had already refused to help. After consulting with my lawyer, we drew up an agreement stating that the bail would be deducted from the final settlement, with her mother holding the remaining funds in custody. My lawyer wanted to ensure my ex would have no excuse for missing the court hearing. My ex didn't have much choice but to sign the agreement. She was released on Monday afternoon. According to her parents, she didn't follow their conditions for continuing to live with them, which included stopping her medication, committing to rehab, being transparent about her actions, and cutting ties with her bad friends. She apparently left their house on Tuesday to stay with some new friends. She also missed the court hearing, and as a result, I was awarded full custody. The settlement, based on our agreement, was finalized in just 30 minutes. It will take 4 to 6 months for all the paperwork to be processed, but the outcome is essentially sealed. There's not much that can be done to change it now. Now let's fast forward to today. I couldn't sleep last night. Everyone congratulated me as if I had won some major victory, but it doesn't feel that way at all. I still love my wife, even though I know our relationship is over. She used to be my best friend and soulmate. Despite everything that's happened and the deep damage done to my love for her, I still feel it, and it hurts a lot. There are no winners here. I lose, my wife loses, and my kids lose. It's hard to find the right words. It's like being told to celebrate after losing both of my legs. People congratulate me as if I've salvaged half a kneecap, but I've lost it all. So, I can't sleep, and when I do, I'm plagued by nightmares that wake me up drenched in sweat. I'm venting a bit here. Sorry for that. Anyway, today I received a call from the hospital. My ex is in the ER. I'm still listed as her emergency contact, and she's still on my health insurance. Apparently, there was an incident where she lost some teeth, broke her jaw, and will need to stay under observation for a few days. I went to the hospital with her parents, and we found out that some of her new friends had beaten her badly. The reason? They thought my ex had shared chat logs from her phone with a guy named Ryan, exposing their actions. They assumed she gave the logs to Ryan, which led to the attack. She still doesn't know that I can monitor her phone. I'll continue to support her financially until I get the legal paperwork, but honestly, I can't fully believe it until I see it with my own eyes. Right now, she's got nothing. She asked if she could move back in with me, but I firmly said no. Her mother won't give her any money unless she gets clean and stays clean for at least a year. They've offered her a place to stay under strict conditions, and if she refuses, I don't see how she'll manage. For the first time, I saw a glimmer of regret in her, but I'm not sure if it's sincere. She barely looked me in the eye when we spoke. It was painful to see her like that, and I felt this urge to protect her. But she's an adult, and her actions are dangerous. I need to prioritize protecting my kids. She didn't ask about the court hearing or her injured friend's condition. She seemed irritated and distant. I still can't comprehend her actions. She's lost everything. Her family, her kids, her dignity. All for a fleeting high in superficial connections. I'm maintaining no contact with her until she's been clean for a significant amount of time. I can't handle all this chaos. Honestly, I'm feeling depressed and incredibly worn out. I'm hardly sleeping, and when I do, I'm plagued by nightmares. On a more positive note, the kids are doing better. My dad has been a huge support, and I honestly don't know what I'd do without him. We went to his cabin over the weekend for some skiing, which was a much-needed break. I've kept minimal contact with my ex. I did, however, have a conversation with one of her friends, the one who was in critical condition. She's awake now, but in bad shape. The nurse told me that no one has visited her during her stay. Her family even refused to see her when contacted. I'm worried that the people who attacked my ex might come after me and the kids, so I asked the nurse if I could speak with her, and she agreed. I know I probably shouldn't, but I felt the need to ask her what had happened since my ex got involved with these people. She started by offering me a closeness favor for $120, which was pretty awkward. I offered her $150 in exchange for some information. My wife's new friends are all heavy users of medication. Catherine convinced my wife to try it and party with them, even selling closeness favors to fund their addiction. Catherine was the ringleader of this group. They talk about feminist ideals, but as Catherine put it, it's just a facade to protect their egos. In reality, they're selling themselves to feed their medication habits. My wife got caught up in this lifestyle and eventually started selling her own closeness to support her habit. It's hard to hear that the person I loved got caught in this cycle. It explains why money seemed to become her top priority. Based on what she told me, it's mostly meth she's been using. Nobody visited her in the hospital because she's stolen from, lied to, and mistreated everyone in her life. People are done with her. She told me, without hesitation, that she regretted surviving. She's lost all hope for the future, and without her makeup, she looks completely unhealthy. It was painful to listen to, and I was devastated for her. I cried a lot, not making excuses for her, but for the woman I used to love. She chose this life, and now she'll have to face the consequences. I'll get back to the details about the people who assaulted my ex later. Catherine is facing an extensive list of charges, including making death threats, resisting arrest, possession of medication, prostitution, drug trafficking, neglect, DUI, causing property damage, and stealing a vehicle. She's been denied bail due to the risk of fleeing, and it's likely that she'll be in legal trouble for a while. At least I hope so. Before I continue, I want to thank everyone who shared their experiences with dealing with addiction. Many of you warned me that my ex might try to harm herself now that everything's closing in on her. And you were right. She tried to overdose intentionally. I had already discussed this possibility with her father, so we made sure to keep a close watch on her. Thankfully, she still doesn't know that I have real-time access to her phone. While we were at the cabin on Saturday, I received a message from my ex that sounded like a farewell note. She talked about her weaknesses, her involvement in prostitution, letting everyone down, and how she felt she had no other option. I immediately called her father. Since I could track her location, he rushed out and found her unconscious on a park bench. She was taken to the hospital, treated, and found to be severely hypothermic. I can't help but think how much worse it could have been if he had been even a few minutes late. Now, she's on methadone. Her father has been appointed as her legal guardian, and she can no longer refuse treatment. He had her forcibly admitted to a rehab center, where she'll go through a sedated detox, probably this week. Her father's legal guardianship isn't just because of the overdose. It's also because she abandoned her children, which indicated to the court that she wasn't in her right mind, especially with her attempts to end her life. That's the legal rationale. Thankfully, I haven't canceled her life insurance yet, so the treatment is covered. I've offered to assist with the financial side, but I'm keeping it from her, making sure she doesn't know where the help is coming from. I've been worried that the men who assaulted my wife might come after me and the kids. Remember, Ryan presented those chat logs in court, which they believed my ex had shared with him. I spoke to Ryan about it, and he decided to handle it, seeing that he benefited from the disclosure. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but Ryan is a big, intimidating guy. He went to their apartment, which honestly was a total dump, and confronted them. He told them Catherine had given him the chat logs, and since they had hurt someone he knew, they had a choice. Either go to the police and confess the assault, or deal with the consequences right there. Painful, permanent ones. As Ryan described it, he made it clear he hoped they'd choose the first option. Apparently, they didn't hesitate to head straight to the police. Needless to say, I'm no longer worried about them. I found a new apartment, and I'll be moving soon. Once again, Stephen came through for me. All in all, I'm feeling very down. This whole situation is weighing heavily on my mind. What keeps me going is the support from friends and family, and I know I need to stay strong for the kids. My heart aches for my ex. Even after everything, I don't regret marrying her. I still love her, but I know we can never be together again. She's not the person I once knew, and there's just too much pain between us now. Despite everything that's happened, we had a good life together. I wouldn't have my children if it weren't for her, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. I know the pain will linger for a long time. Strangely, hearing about my ex's struggles has made it easier for the kids to understand. It's simpler to explain that mommy is sick, and it will take time for her to get better. She still loves them, and that's something they can hold on to. Right now, I'm feeling sad and exhausted. Ryan is here with his kids, and we're planning to watch Madagascar 3. I'm trying to create as many positive memories as possible, and Ryan is doing the same. His kids, along with mine, seem to be doing much better now. I believe we'll be okay. I believe my ex passed away from an overdose while in rehab. We're not sure how she got access to medication, but it seems she must have taken something while there, and it went terribly wrong. Substance abuse is a real issue, and it's heartbreaking. If you're in a similar situation, I urge you to seek support from your family. It's crucial to focus on taking care of your children through these challenging times. It may feel like the current situation is overwhelming, but it will get better. Your children need you now more than ever, and your in-laws are going through even more pain than you. Stay strong, and best of luck. Let me know if you'd like to revise or continue.